ground according to different mappers, and according to neutral mappers and according to pro-Ukrainian mappers, the Russians during the previous night, during the previous 24 hours, managed to significantly improve their positions to the south of the city of Ukrainsk and to the west. As for the western direction, currently the Russians are moving to the next landfill and the next coal mine, and according to a map update, the next stronghold was captured by the Russians. Currently there are few positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in this direction. Most likely, first of all, the Russians are going to take under control this stronghold between the city of Ukrainsk and the coal mine, and after that the Russians will be able to move further. As for the southern direction, according to different mappers, the Russians enter the territory of Girnik, and currently there are very heavy clashes already in the territory of this settlement. So this is the beginning of the storm of Girnik, and if the Russians are able to take under control of the entire city, this is going to be obviously the complete disaster for the Ukraine. Now let's move further and let's talk about Grodovka. If you remember, just yesterday we were talking that the Russians managed to cross the river, the Zhuravka river, and to take under control the positions in the village of Grodovka on the Ukrainian side of the river. And starting of today, we see certain Russian activity further in the western direction. In this video, we can see attempts from the Ukrainian side to counterattack the Russian forces, and the Russians see everything, and they managed to discover the movements of Ukrainian vehicles that were counterattacking the Russian positions, and as a result of several attacks with FPV drones and artillery, Ukraine attack was repelled and the Ukrainians were completely defeated. So as for this direction, we see that currently the Russians are mainly focused on the next defense belt, and we are talking about dense network of the fortifications between the river of Zhuravka and the city of Promin. We are talking about these three strongholds. Most likely this is the next target of the Russians. Now let's go further and let's talk about the Toretsk agglomeration. The Russians continue improving their positions, and we have some interesting updates. For example, just today on the 19th of September of 2024, the pro-Ukrainian map service Deep State confirmed Russian control over the landfill of Artyoma. We're talking about this landfill and the coal mine, and I'll remind you that according to different mappers, according to different geolocations that we've been receiving from this area for the previous 2 months, this landfill was captured probably a month or something like this ago, but just now the Ukrainian sources confirmed this. Furthermore, according to different sources, the Russians managed to move much deeper, and furthermore the Russians answered the block of Zabalka of the city of Toretsk, but according to pro-Ukrainians, the Russians are very far from this progress. As for the central part, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the main Ukrainian citadel. Currently, we can make a conclusion that there are very heavy clashes and the battle for Toretsk is ongoing, and this is the critical part when the battle for initiative is ongoing, and who is able to take the initiative in their hands will win the battle for the entire city. We have small changes on the ground. The video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and in this video we can see several FPV drone attacks on the Russian positions. Most of the strikes and most of the episodes were geolocated, and for example, one of the episodes took place exactly in this point, which confirms a very small but additional progress of the armed force of Russian Federation. This is we are talking about changes on the ground, and most likely the Russians managed to move much deeper. Now let's move further. As for Chasiv Yar, we have some progress on the ground. The Russian sources are saying that the Russian armed forces in Chasik, this is how the Russians are calling the city of Chasiv Yar, advanced for 400 meters in depth and for 600 meters in width towards the refractory plant from Kalinovka side. So summarizing everything, according to different sources, the Russians managed to establish control over this part to the west of Kalinovka. So approximately this is the territory that is already under Russian control, and the Russians are moving further in the direction of the industrial zone. We are talking about this plant. Now let's move further. As for the Sivers direction, we haven't received anything special. Now let's talk about the Kupinsk direction. The Russians are pushing. For example, today some mappers have adjusted their maps in the southern part of Makiivka. These farms were turned under the Russian control. We have the video. Yesterday we discussed this video, but we decided not to adjust the map based on this video because right in this video we can see Russian soldier that was attacked by the Ukrainians, and basically the video ended not in Russian favor. So we decided not to change the territory of farms in Russian favor based on this video, but as we can see, most of the mappers did this. Now let's move further. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians conducted full-scale offensive operation in direction of Chernyshina from the village of Karamzinovka and Kovalivka. This attack was conducted by the Russian forces, and the Russians were attacking towards the area of responsibilities of the 3rd Azov Brigade. And in this video, we can see how the drones and reconnaissance services of this brigade were flying above the air, trying to control the Russian movements, and at some point the Ukrainians began bombing and attacking the Russian forces, and the attack was repelled. So most likely this was something like reconnaissance in combat or reconnaissance in force. Now the Russians managed to discover the Ukrainian FPV drone positions. During upcoming day, the Russians will try to destroy everything, and then they will make another attempt. In the northern Kupiansk direction, the flower of Pishana continue blooming. We have additional changes on the ground according to pro-Ukrainian service, and we have video that confirms additional progress. In this video that was published by the Ukrainian forces, we can see several FPV drone attacks on the Russian edge positions, and some of the episodes were geolocated, and one of the geolocated episodes took place exactly in this place. Based on this video, we have adjusted this part of Pishana flower in Russian favor. The Russians are moving closer and closer to Oskol, while the Russians are moving, the Russian artillery forces and the Russian aviation is bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions along the city. Furthermore, the Russians continue destroying and ruining Ukrainian logistics. Today we got another video of probably hundreds attempts to attack the bridge between western and the eastern bank of Oskol River. The bridge wasn't destroyed, but obviously the bridge was damaged, and probably for a few hours the Ukrainians lost their logistics from through this area. Now let's move to the Kharkiv direction. The Russians during the previous night attacked the city of Kharkiv with the ballistic missiles and with drones. We don't know for sure what kind of damage the Russians managed to deal, but the sources are saying that there were very heavy explosions. Now let's move further. The Russians continue bringing additional reinforcements and reserves to the city of Belgorod and to the Kursk direction with the purpose to reinforce positions and probably to concentrate forces, accumulate additional groups, and to continue moving further. As for the Kursk direction, we have additional changes on the ground. According to pro-Russian sources and according to some neutral sources, the Russians managed to cross the river of Snagast and to take complete control over the villages by the name of Nikolaeva Daryevka to force the Ukrainians to fall back, the village of Darina as well. So this territory, according to different pro-Russian mappers and pro-Russian sources, was captured by the Russians during the previous 24 hours. This is very important because currently the Russians have their foothold on the Ukrainian side of the river, and now they have no barriers to move further in the eastern direction with the purpose to attack the village of Sverdlikova and to attack the road between Zheleny Shlях and the village itself with the purpose to cut logistic and to create a cauldron for the Ukrainian forces. We have additional changes on the ground according to pro-Ukrainian services. The Ukrainians are saying that yes, the Russians did establish control or at least answer the village of Pokrovsky, Tolstoluch and Lyubimovka, and according to pro-Ukraine mappers, this territory is in the gray zone. We have changes on the ground. To the southeast of Korineva, we have video of how the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces. In this video, we can see Russian tanks that were attacking the Ukrainian positions and how the Ukrainians were trying to slow the Russians down by artillery strikes and by FPV drone attacks. As you can see, there are several episodes, several different places in the same location, and summarizing everything, the Russians managed to reach this forest, this very big, huge forest, and to land infantry on along this line and to begin offensive operation in this direction. So based on this video, we have adjusted at least this part. Now let's move further. Let's talk about Glushkova direction, and the story is getting more and more funny almost every single day. Today, the forces of 225th Battalion published another video of how they were attacking this part of Ukraine, of Russia, and the thing is that this is the same video that we saw, the episodes we saw during the first days of Ukraine attack. So nothing new. The Ukrainian offensive operation in the Glushkova region started probably a week ago, and we still haven't received anything anything new, anything special. The only thing we receive is the same videos from different angles and from different drones, from different equipment, but everything that we see every day took place probably 7 days ago. Nothing new, nothing special, which confirms that most likely Ukrainian forces were completely defeated. The Ukrainians haven't managed to achieve any results, and basically the Ukrainians are running and moving along the border without getting deeper inside the territory of Russia. In this video we can see another Ukrainian convoy that was heading from one city to another, and that was ambushed and destroyed by the Russian FPV drones. So this is the situation. Now let's move further. Let's discuss updates from Kiev, because they are very important. According to information we have, Ukraine has fully prepared the plan for victory. Now the most important thing is to decisively implement it. That was stated by Zelensky. There can be no talk of freezing the front line. Zelensky also announced a very important result last night on the territory of Russia. He was talking about MOD, what was destroyed. And so as you can see, Zelensky is in a hurry. Of course, we made lots of projections and conclusions. So why Zelensky is trying to be so fast, trying to make everything faster, we came to conclusion that most likely everything probably connected with the winter, and that Ukrainians most likely will not be able to survive during the winter period of time. But today we understand that the reason why Zelensky is so fast is that his probably intelligence service, maybe he has some relations with NATO countries, United States of America, that provided them important information. Most likely Zelensky months ago already knew that Israel is going to begin full-scale offensive operation, a full-scale war with Lebanon, with Hezbollah. So Zelensky understands that as soon as Israel begins this war, this operation, most likely Western countries will reduce the level of support of Ukraine to minimum. And this war obviously is going to be very long and very bloody, because we understand if Israel cross the border with Lebanon, most likely Iran will begin full-scale support of this small region, because there are a lot of proxy Iranian forces, and this will lead to complete reduce of supply support of Ukraine. So that's why Zelensky tried to have to freeze the line of combat contact, or according to him, to win as soon as possible. As for Israel-Lebanon conflict, we have a lot of statements, a lot of icons, as you can see, and the most important that the country Air France Lufthansa canceled flights to Israel over possible Hezbollah response to Lebanon pager attack. Furthermore, according to information we have, Netanyahu in a video address to Israeli citizens promised to return residents of the north of the country to their homes, which means that he's going to make a buffer zone, and then people will be able to return back home. Furthermore, we have reports that the Israeli cabinet has authorized Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant to take defensive and offensive steps to achieve the war's objectives, and has given them the authority to declare war if necessary. This was reported by Israel Channel 12. Furthermore, we have important updates about the situation on the border, and the most important is that Israeli forces are redeploying their special forces, special unit of 89 division. We continue receiving a lot of updates of how the tanks being redeployed. We've seen the same story before the beginning of Gaza conflict. First the Israeli were deploying forces, and then the operation started. Now we see the same. I'm sure that we are not going to see the ground offensive tomorrow or the day after. It's a very huge process, very big and long process to redeploy forces, but obviously within a week something big is going to happen. Most likely there are going to be some response from Lebanon, from Hezbollah, which will also lead to additional escalation. As for the attack that took place yesterday, we have the alleged map of pager explosions recorded. It includes spot positions in Syria. So as you can see, most of the explosions took place in the southern part and in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. So a lot of updates we are waiting from this direction, and obviously it's going to be something big. So let's see what is going to be next.